Good morning, class. Nice to see you. I'm Mary Carroll, and this is How to Survive English 101. Make sure you subscribe below. I'm going to be posting every single Monday. I'll be here all semester long to help you pass that class. This is Complex Sentences Part 2. I am not going to spend all this time doing just grammar. Grammar is not the only thing you need in order to write really good college level papers. But I want to give you some self-confidence right out of the gate as far as manipulating and managing sentences. I want to make sure you feel confident that you've written a complete sentence, that you recognize what a complete sentence is, and so on. All right? Now, this Complex Sentences Part 2 I wanted to do because I wanted to pick some subordinating conjunctions that are maybe not ones you would use in your day-to-day speech. You're going to notice as we go along that a lot of the language that I'm using is meant to move you up above a little bit your casual speech, which is normal. I have a casual speech. Everybody has a casual speech. But the papers that you write for college need to be at a more formal level. They are going to have a little more elevated sense of vocabulary and sentence structure and so on. So let's start getting used to thinking about that, all right? All right, so 4 samples for today. Whereas most people treat interrupting lightly, sounds like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Sure, I didn't end it here. I've got a comma, not a period. And whereas most people treat interrupting lightly, let's use our test. You walk up to Jamal on the quad and you say, hey, Jamal, whereas most people treat interrupting lightly, obviously that's not a complete thought. It's not finished. It needs something else. So this group of words is dependent on something in order to complete it. And sure enough, here it is. Here's the independent part that helps support this one. Ben gets quite angry over it. Whereas most people treat interrupting lightly, Ben gets quite angry over it. Now, let me ask you this, or take a look at this. Let's read this. Ben gets quite angry over it. Sure, we don't know what it is, but that doesn't matter. It still is an independent clause. It can stand on its own. Ben gets quite angry over it. Okay, whereas most people treat interrupting lightly, Ben gets quite angry over it. The fact that you might choose the word whereas, that you might say quite, these are word choices that are a little elevated, they're a little more formal, but get used to them because you need to be using things like that in your college papers, okay? All right, here's another example. Whenever the TV is on, the cat and dog sit down to watch it. Okay, whenever, that's more common. You'll use that even in casual speech, okay? But notice whenever the TV is on, there really needs to be something else there. We know that thought is not complete, is it? Okay, so let's see what's coming. The cat and dog sit down to watch it. Yeah, and again, we've got this pronoun it, same as this. Sure, the cat and dog sit down to watch it. I don't really know what it is, but it doesn't matter. It's still a complete sentence. It still conveys a complete thought, okay? Remember, a complex sentence is a combination of an independent sentence connected to a dependent group of words. Dependent because they need something else to complete their meaning, okay? All right, now, this is a big one I want to talk about. Once, oh yeah, easy word. You've known that word since you were about 8, right? Okay, not hard, but there's something I want to say about this. Abana put away the hose once she heard it would get below freezing. Now, as we said in the lesson before, when your subordinating conjunction is in the middle of the sentence, it doesn't usually have a comma before it, okay? But there's something about this. We could say Abana put away the hose when she heard it would get below freezing. Yeah, we could. I want you to think about what the difference is between when and once. We're going to come back to that in just a second. Last example, Jahim organized a study group even though his class schedule was full. All right, now where is the independent part of this complex sentence? I'm going to give you a minute. Take a look at it. Which is the independent part? Jahim organized a study group. Now, why isn't it Jahim organized a study group even though? Why not? How do we know that even though belongs to the next one? Well, because even though, I suppose you could stop there, but that doesn't make sense. And really, I think you could just depend on the fact that you're a native English speaker in order to sense this out. Even though his class schedule was full, you can tell that is something that, as an English speaker, we say. Even though we know, even though it's not a complete thought, even though his class schedule was full. Yeah, what about it? Right? Okay. So Jahim organized a study group, even though his class schedule was full. So Jahim organized a study group. There's your independent portion of the sentence. And even though his class schedule was full is dependent on something for its meaning. All right. Now, here's the thing that I want you to think about. And this is a way for you to elevate your vocabulary choices so that you will be able to convey more nuanced opinions and points of view, which you will be called upon to do in your college papers. Let's take a look at the word once. Now I asked you, what's the difference between once and when? Okay? Now, once conveys the connotation of as soon as. Okay? And when conveys a nuanced meaning of just simply after. So, if we say Abana put away the hose once she heard it would get below freezing, there's a slight sense of urgency about the choice of the word once. As soon as she heard it was going to get below freezing, she ran out to put the hose away. Yeah, it's not a huge urgency. I mean, no one's going to die here or anything like that, but there is a slight sense of urgency that we get from the word once. Let's substitute when. Abana put away the hose when she heard it would get below freezing. Now, if you're a native English speaker right away, you can sense that there's no real hurry going on here. Now, you might think, what difference does that make? This is such a slight, do we really even need to be talking about this? Yes, we do. And the reason is because you're in college and you need to elevate your language choices a little bit. If you choose once over when or when over once, you are conveying a different meaning. And the other word that I want us to look at is while. Now, while conveys the sense of something happening during something else. In the last lesson, we had the example of I was listening to my playlist while I was walking to the store. These two things are happening at the same time. And there's a sense of things moving together harmoniously, right? Okay, so although these words, once, when, and while, are simple words that you've been using since you were 10 or 11 years old, it is now time to really pay close attention to the nuance of meaning, because all of these little connecting words that we use in sentences convey a different relationship between the idea in the first part of the sentence and the idea in the second part of the sentence. Okay? All right, these are subordinating conjunctions, once, when, and while. They convey slightly different meanings. All right? I'm going to give you, again, just a little bit of time to look at this. I want you to take 5 minutes, write 5 complex sentences. try to use slightly bigger, a little more formal subordinating conjunctions. I am not giving you a whole list of these here because you don't need that. You can Google them. So if you want, Google a list of subordinating conjunctions. Pick a kind of a formal one that you've really never used before and try to write a sentence with it. Give yourself just that tiny little bit of practice, okay? All right, next class is going to be how to get ready for that first paper. I'm going to get you through the preparation and the writing of it, okay? All right, everybody, good to see ya.